Welcome to Tales of Kind Souls, where we bring you the most heartwarming, inspiring and emotional stories that remind us of the power of kindness, courage and human connection. Sit back, relax and get ready for another story that will touch your heart and stay with you long after it ends. The cabin lights were dim, the soft hum of the airplane engines was steady, and most passengers had settled into their seats for what promised to be a long flight. In row 12, a man sat slouched against the window, his head leaning gently to the side as he drifted into sleep. To anyone else, he looked like just another tired passenger, worn out by the bustle of travel. But what they didn't know was that this man's story was far more complicated, far more fragile, and far more inspiring than anyone around him could have guessed. He was a single father, traveling with his little daughter. She was only 6 years old, small for her age, with big curious eyes and a head full of bouncing curls. Her name was Lily, and though she was young, she had already endured more heartache than a child ever should. Losing her mother at just 4 years old had left a hole in her world that only her father's love had managed to fill. Her father, Daniel, had promised himself and his late wife that he would give Lily the happiest life possible. He worked tirelessly, sometimes holding 2 jobs at once, just to make sure his daughter never lacked anything important. But as strong as he tried to be, exhaustion often caught up with him, and this flight was no exception. Daniel had planned everything for the journey. Snacks, coloring books, Lily's favorite stuffed bunny, all neatly packed in a small backpack by his side. But somewhere between takeoff and the calm rhythm of cruising altitude, he dozed off, his fatigue overwhelming him. Lily, however, was wide awake. Children rarely find airplane rides boring. For her, it was a thrilling adventure. She stared out the window for a while, pressing her tiny nose against the cool glass, giggling at the clouds below that looked like mountains of cotton candy. She kicked her legs softly against the seat and began humming a tune her mother once sang to her. That's when the woman sitting just across the aisle noticed her. The woman was in her late 20s, a soft-spoken traveler named Emily who was flying alone. She had been buried in a novel, but couldn't help glancing over when she heard the little hum. She saw Lily's innocent eyes full of wonder, then glanced at the man sleeping soundly by the window. Something in the scene struck her. Maybe it was the vulnerability of a father traveling alone with such a young child. Or maybe it was the unmistakable tiredness on his face. Emily smiled at Lily, who shyly waved back. Before long, Lily leaned over the armrest and whispered, "Do you like drawing?" Pulling out her coloring book as if ready to make a new friend. Emily chuckled softly. "I do. What are you drawing?" And just like that, a bond began to form. Over the next hour, as Daniel slept, Emily quietly entertained Lily. She helped her pick colors for her drawings, listened intently as Lily explained every little story behind the pictures, and even offered her a pack of cookies she had brought for herself. Lily beamed, laughing and chatting as if she had known Emily forever. The flight attendants noticed too. They watched as this stranger took it upon herself to step in and make the little girl comfortable without disturbing her father. One of them whispered to another, "That's the sweetest thing I've seen all day." But the story doesn't end there. At one point, Lily began talking about her mom. She didn't cry, but her words carried the weight of loss only a child could express so innocently. She said, "Sometimes I dream about her. Daddy says she's in the stars, but I think she's in the clouds too. Maybe she's watching us right now." Emily's heart tightened at those words. She put her hand gently over Lily's and said, "I think you're right, and she must be so proud of you." Lily's face lit up, and for a moment it was as if the entire plane disappeared around them. It was just a child, finding comfort in the kindness of a stranger. By the time Daniel stirred awake, blinking against the dim light, he was startled to find his daughter leaning comfortably against Emily's arm, coloring quietly while chatting away. For a split second, he panicked. How long had he been asleep? What if Lily had needed something? But then he saw the calm expression on her face, the way she was cared for without a hint of discomfort, and he relaxed. "I'm so sorry," Daniel said quickly, sitting up straighter. "I must have dozed off. I hope she hasn't been bothering you." Emily shook her head with a warm smile. "Not at all. She's been wonderful company." Lily tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, this is Emily. She helped me color and she gave me cookies." Daniel's tired eyes softened. He mouthed a quiet thank you to Emily, who simply nodded as if to say it was no trouble at all. But inside, Daniel felt a swell of gratitude he could barely put into words. He knew what it meant for someone to step in, to show care for his little girl in moments when he wasn't able to. It was a rare kind of kindness, one he hadn't expected to find thousands of feet above the ground on an ordinary flight. The hours passed and the plane eventually began its descent. As the city lights twinkled below, Lily leaned against her father, now sleepy from all the excitement. Daniel stroked her hair gently, but his eyes flicked once more toward Emily. "You didn't have to do any of that," he said quietly, not wanting to wake Lily. "But you did, and I can't thank you enough." Emily smiled softly. "Sometimes the smallest things we do mean the most to someone else. She's a special little girl. You're doing a great job with her." Daniel swallowed hard, the weight of those words sinking deep. To hear encouragement from someone who had only seen a glimpse of their life, it meant more than he could express. When the plane landed and passengers began to gather their belongings, Emily handed Lily a small piece of paper. On it, she had drawn a little doodle of a girl holding hands with her dad under a sky full of stars. She had written beneath it, "For Lily, from the friend you made in the sky." Lily clutched the drawing tightly, smiling as if she had been given the greatest treasure. As they parted ways at the terminal, Daniel and Emily exchanged one last look. No words were needed. Gratitude and kindness had already said everything. For weeks after that flight, Lily would carry the little doodle in her backpack, proudly showing it to her friends and teachers, saying, "This is from Emily, she was my friend in the sky." And Daniel, he carried with him the reminder that even in his most exhausted moments, the world could surprise him with kindness, that there were people out there, strangers even, who would step in to make his journey a little easier, his burden a little lighter. Because sometimes kindness comes quietly. It doesn't ask for recognition. It doesn't demand anything in return. It simply shows up exactly when it's needed most. And in row 12 of that airplane, a tired single father learned that he wasn't as alone in the world as he thought. This is what Tales of Kind Souls is all about. Moments like these, where ordinary people do extraordinary things with the simplest gestures. It's a reminder that kindness is everywhere, even at 30,000 feet above the ground, even between strangers who may never meet again. So the next time you're on a plane, in a cafe, on a bus, or just walking down the street, remember, you never know when your small act of kindness might change someone's day or even their life. Thank you for watching Tales of Kind Souls. If this story touched your heart, please share it with others. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that remind us of the beauty of humanity. Until next time, keep believing in kindness.